Okay, so finally we are moving to Zbrush, and as you see, we are importing our files. We export from Maya through OBJ, and then we click import our objects. We import them as a separate tool, and then to one tool we add them as a subtool. So we have something like layers. If you are familiar a little bit with Zbrush, so you probably know this stuff. So we've got our body, beard, mustache, hair, jeans, boots. And we will be working on this stuff. I will be talking about brushes that I use and techniques, but mostly it's really simple stuff, so as you see, we've got complete character. For this stage I choose different material. I don't like to sculpt using this red matte cap. I prefer other materials that are more similar to clay. So we've got eyes too, but since we will be moving our face a little bit, they are not needed on this stage. But you can add it, of course, if you want to. So I subdivide it a little bit and select this part with head to hide other polygons, because it makes Zbrush just faster. And we will be working a little bit on face. I want to start from face because I think it's really important piece of the body. It adds really character to our guy. So at the beginning, when I have lower density of the mesh, I tend to use move tool a lot before I move to higher subdivision. After I move higher, I tend to use clay brush and standard brush. And if I'm using standard brush, it's often with lazy mouse on, because I use standard brush really for making folds, hairs, or something like this, or wrinkles. Clay brush I use to add some volumes and bigger parts, muscles or something like this, and of course smooth tool, standard tool. So now we are using move tool, shaping a little bit more this face. I'm trying to add some more character, because default it looks really crappy. So I'm always playing and trying to find some cool features on his face. This is sometimes a slow process of looking for what is working really good, and sometimes few little changes can change really the feeling of the face and feeling of the character. So this character is a little bit cartoon, I think. So we will have some parts of him a little bit sharp. For example, in his face I've made his cheekbones a little bit sharper because it adds some cartoon styling to it. And as you see, I'm using clay brush, as I said, for making bigger parts of the body, or in this case on the head. So painting some volumes. Now a little bit work around his nose. And of course you've got to have anatomy really good. You have to understand really good anatomy before you sit to Zbrush, because you can make some really bad shapes if you are not understanding how our body is built. So I encourage you to learn anatomy first if you are really beginner. Eyes are really important in this kind of characters, because if you look on the face of the character and something is wrong with the eyes, nothing will help to improve this, because the first thing you see always is our eyes. So be careful, because eyes are pretty difficult to do, and they are important part of the head. And again, using clay brush and making our cheekbones a little bit sharper. So we still have not much polygons, because as you see, nothing is smooth right now. We still see lots of polygons, lots of sharp stuff. I like to work a lot using not enough geometry. When I subdivide, I just add some few changes, like smoothing some parts and adding wrinkles, and that's it. It's easier to work with less geometry rather than fighting with too much geometry, and it's more difficult. Just is good habit to have some work while having less geometry. So right now we have our face a little bit more defined. Just playing with the nose. Our guy will be a little bit hulky, so I wanted to give him this kind of face. White head with small nose and big mouth. So as you see and as you will see, I don't use too much brushes. I use this standard brush with lazy mouse. Sometimes when I make really fine details, I use standard brush with some alphas, but mostly I don't use it. I don't use too much fancy brushes. I use clay brush and sometimes for making hairs. You will see this in next tutorials, in next movies, that I was using a standard brush with some good alpha for creating hair. So that's it. I don't play with any crazy stuff because you don't have to. These few brushes are working really well, and I don't feel that I have to experiment with other stuff. So I'm defining right now eyes a little bit more. While sculpting, you have to remember that you will have to create low resolution mesh for this and then bake maps. So you have to keep this in mind, because when you will make your mesh a little bit too crazy, it will be hard to bake it. So you have to have some experience in this, because you can make some mistakes that will be seen on your normal map. And I was telling you in few past tutorials that ears are important, because good mesh done in Maya will be profiting right now, because you don't have to really deal too much with sculpting these ears. They look pretty good, so we will add just a few touches to it using standard and clay brush. We'll pinch some parts of the mesh, so it's not too much work. But we have already good ears. Of course, we will be having hair, so there is no need of sculpting and putting any details on the top and the back of the head. We can keep everything clean around ears, but the rest of the skull is not really important. So as you see, some parts of this ear are a little bit flat, because as I said, we want to make him a little bit cartoonish. So I thought that this this will work. I didn't want to have round ears, so I made some parts of it a little bit flat. And now you see everything with hair and beard, mustache. It doesn't look bad. Already we've got some character in here. So still you see we've got really not much geometry, but we are defining little wrinkles, eyebrows. And this is good method because after subdividing it, we will smooth some parts, add little wrinkles, add some details, and it will be done. Different people have different techniques, but this is how I work with this kind of stuff. And I wanted to make this nose a little bit sharper, like the ears and cheekbones, more cartoonish style, I think. And I like it in this stage. Really, it's important to see your character from different perspective and different directions. If your head is working with rest of the body, it's really important that everything should be working with everything. So now I'm watching the body, looking for some shapes that I can fix, but we don't need to sculpt really body because it will be covered by clothes. So I subdivide a little bit, as you see. I will refine these shapes a little bit. Add probably some little details. And then we will move to sculpting our hair. So it's good habit to put your eyebrows while trying to shape this eye, but I do this at the end almost because I'm pretty comfortable with making it without anything inside. Then I can just put eye up at the end of work and see if it's working. If not, I move some little parts. But if you're a beginner, it really helps putting some sphere inside. So I'm trying to define major wrinkles below eye and here around nose, using just a standard brush with no any special alpha. Same stuff around lips, trying to define the sharpest edges. And the upper lip, same stuff. It's a little bit above this mustache, but we have to do this anyway. So as you see, having a great base mesh for starting our character is important. We didn't have any problem with creating our face, our ears, because geometry was really good. So we didn't have any problems with our surface. Everything is working as it should. We can add details. Our polygons are not crashing anywhere. So good work already. And it's really fun part because we are adding more character to it. Character from my eyes was really without anything. Was like a puppet or something like this. Right now we have more character, more details, so it's more fun. So I turn off this mustache to sculpt our upper lip a little bit better. As you see, I sculpt this face with our hair on, so the rest of the head might be a little bit sculpted incorrectly because we are not paying attention to it. It might be a little bit deformed, so you can do it with your hair off, and then when you are sure that everything is working, you can turn it on. But for me, it's not important how the rest of the head is looking. I think everything is working just fine. Even if some parts of the jaw or on the top of the head are really bad, we don't see it, so everything is fine. So even if we've got a lot of geometry, we can use move tool and move some bigger parts around. Now with clay brush we are redefining our ear, making it a little bit flat in some parts. So we are still playing with our ear, trying to make it right. We can use pinch brush in this case, when we wanna pinch a little bit more these polygons and make this edge a little bit sharper. And making a little bit sharper edge inside of the ear. It will make it more cartoonish, I think. So a few little changes and we will be moving to sculpting details on our hair. And we will be starting from beard, then moving to mustache, and hair on the top of his head will be the last. So making hair is a little bit difficult for someone who is not familiar with this kind of work. It took some experience and testing that if everything is looking how we want to after baking and texturing, so in this case we will be doing something like bigger parts of the hair, we will be sculpting them and then putting on these bigger parts really fine details like single hair. He's looking right now like Santa Claus a little bit. So for these bigger parts of the hair I will be using probably clay brush. Of course for bigger moves I will be using move tool, but clay brush will be perfect combining it with standard brush, and then standard brush with some alphas to creating this really fine little hairs. And important is place where your hair are starting and are touching your skin without any hairs. It's good to pay attention how this part is looking. And of course you have to see how this haircut is working with rest of the body. Okay, so we will be continuing in next movie.